Hey, did you hear that Tears of the Kingdom is out? Of course you did, because it's literally the only thing people are talking about right now. Nearly 4 decades after first hitting 8-bit consoles, The Legend of Zelda is bigger than ever, easily ranking as one of Nintendo's premier franchises. With all this talk about Link's new adventure, I started to wonder what Electronic Gaming Monthly thought of this series back in the day. I mean, I assumed that they loved the long-running franchise, but what were their favorites and least favorite games? Now, in case you're wondering, EGM managed to review a total of 13 games in the Legend of Zelda series between 1989 and 2008. That means that they hit pretty much every Zelda game from A Link to the Past on the Super Nintendo, all the way up to Phantom Hourglass on the Nintendo DS. Frustratingly, they never reviewed the first 2 Nintendo Entertainment System installments, and the magazine died before key titles like Skyward Sword, A Link Between Worlds, and of course Breath of the Wild were released. What's even more annoying is they completely skipped over reviewing the CDI games, so we'll never know what they thought of Zelda's Adventure or the Wand of Gamelon. Thankfully, they managed to review pretty much everything else, which should make for a great list. What we're going to do today is count down the best and worst Legend of Zelda games using Electronic Gaming Monthly's own words and scores. There's no editorializing here, we're just going to focus on what the critics said back when these games first came out. So go and tell Tingle the good news, because we're about to hack and slash our way through a masterfully crafted dungeon as EGM ranks The Legend of Zelda.
Introducing the epic challenge that only the Super Nintendo Entertainment System could make possible. Across endless land and water, you search. Deep into a parallel world where light becomes dark, you search. And just when you think your search has ended, you find it's just begun. The new Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past. Now you're playing with power and superpower.
Up first, at number 13, is The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening on the Game Boy. Can Nintendo do no wrong? This game is thankfully not a complete translation of the Super Nintendo version. A totally different story with incredible graphics and beautiful sound are the real high points. The only drawback is this game could have been perfect as a sequel to the Super Nintendo version. A great job! Number 12, The Legend of Zelda 4 Swords Adventures on the GameCube. If you thought Wind Waker was Zelda for babies, then 4 Swords is practically prenatal. I'm not making fun of its kiddie cartoon style, I'm referring to how each 4 Sword stage is set up like a stripped down standalone game. After you power up your sword, get that boomerang, or find a heart container to increase your health, say goodbye to them when you finish the level and start over on the next. You don't really develop Link into a greater, more powerful hero. You don't even get to carry more than 1 sub-weapon at a time. It all feels like Zelda Light. Your fun will waver with some confusing levels that take way too long to finish, but cooperating and competing at the same time with your teammates is a great experience that any Zelda fan will enjoy. Number 11, The Legend of Zelda Phantom Hourglass on the Nintendo DS. As expected, Phantom Hourglass serves up the usual slate of Zelda staples: traveling, exploration, puzzles, and combat in generous quantities. But this time, everything is handled via the touchscreen and stylus. Personally, being forced to adapt to this new playstyle irritated me at first, especially since your hand often obscures the action. But as the game progresses, moves become available that wouldn't be possible without a stylus. So this method eventually proves its worth. Is Hourglass a solid piece of Nintendo DS software? Absolutely. But we've all been there and done that before. Number 10, The Legend of Zelda A Link to the Past on the Super Nintendo. Wow! This is the closest a game has ever gotten to a perfect 10. Everything except for the graphics get the best score possible. Unfortunately, Nintendo let us down when it comes to the graphics, as there's nothing special here. Tons of items to find and a super long quest. I love it. Yet, the game does seem too easy when it's in English. Number 9. The Legend of Zelda The Minish Cap on Game Boy Advance. Brain-straining dungeons, elaborate bosses, funky gadgets, a super-sized world. That's the stuff that makes the Zelda series so bitchin'. And this cap brims with it, along with a clever and endearing shrinky-link gameplay twist that makes for cool puzzles. Plus, Minish Cap packs little touches that'll give Link lovers goosebumps, such as an Ocarina flute, militant chickens, and a greatest hits assortment of tunes and monsters. The quest really drags around the middle when you must fiddle with such mundane tasks as returning overdue library books. Fortunately, the rest of the game is appropriately legendary. Number 8. The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening DX on the Game Boy Color. It's been 5 years and Link's Awakening still reigns supreme as the best Game Boy game available. Be warned though, aside from the beautiful colorized graphics and a slightly updated ending, Zelda DX isn't all that different from the original game. Collecting all 12 photos for the camera shot makes for a nice added challenge, but the new dungeon is a total disappointment. It's too short and too easy. Still, a must-buy for any Game Boy Color owner. Number 7. The Legend of Zelda A Link to the Past and Four Swords on the Game Boy Advance. 10 years ago, when I had to put down A Legend of Zelda for a family vacation, I remember thinking, wouldn't it be great if I didn't have to wait till I was home in front of the TV to play more? And now that childhood dream has been realized. I can play this classic Zelda anywhere with its huge quest, mind-bending dungeons, and sharp graphics that stand the test of time. And to make an even sweeter deal, I can link up with friends to play Four Swords, which is the most fun that I've ever had with a 4-player Game Boy Advance game. If you own a Game Boy Advance, this Zelda should be in your collection. Number 6. The Legend of Zelda Oracle of Seasons on the Game Boy Color. If you were a fan of the previous Game Boy Zelda, or any of the 2D Zeldas for that matter, then really, don't even bother reading this. Just go out and buy one, or even better, buy both of the Oracle games. You'll thank me later. They're both fantastic games, and despite being developed by an outsider, they're both worthy of the Zelda name. The dungeons and seasons are exquisitely designed, though they don't get incredibly challenging until around level 6 or so. The new items are very cool though, and the rings are a nice touch of variety to the gameplay. Ultimately, the thing that really pushes these games over the top is their interaction with one another. Oracle of Seasons is an overall fantastic game that should not be missed. Number 5. The Legend of Zelda Oracle of Ages on Game Boy Color. While both Oracle games are truly superb, I have to go with Ages as my personal favorite, thanks to the more thought-provoking puzzles and the Super Nintendo Zelda-esque world design. The way things are broken up between the past and present reminds me a bit of the light and dark worlds in A Link to the Past. The dungeons are hardcore, the new items are sweet, I love the switch hook, and even the music is inspired, despite half of it being ripped directly from Link's Awakening. As a standalone game, Oracle of Ages is great. When coupled with Oracle of Seasons, it becomes one of the most satisfying Game Boy Color experiences ever. It makes for a great Game Boy Advance game too. Number 4. The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker on GameCube. What the hell were we all so worried about? The Wind Waker's toon-shaded look once seemed like a daring risk, but after actually trying the finished game, it's hard to imagine it any other way. In short, Nintendo achieved its goal. Playing Zelda feels like you're controlling a cartoon. I only have 2 minor complaints with The Wind Waker. First, it's a bit too easy. I never had to worry about dying at any time throughout the entire game. Second is the boat that Link rides everywhere. Yes, it's a unique and cool method to get around. The way you dredge up treasure, aim your cannon to attack, and use the wind to steer feels unlike anything Zelda or any other game has done before. My trouble is, you're sailing a lot. Despite a limited warp spell that you get later on, it can be tiresome. But these are minor quibbles next to everything that Zelda does so well. It's one of the most unique and enjoyable games ever. Play it. Number 3, The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask on the Nintendo 64. I love the time travel aspect of Majora's Mask, even more so than Ocarina of Time in some ways. Technically, this game only lasts 3 game days, but with the use of the Ocarina, you get to replay those days over and over again. Kinda like Zelda meets Groundhog Day. Besides the novel approach, what you really get in Majora's Mask is more of the same great gameplay from the last game, complete with an entirely new, though eerily familiar, world to explore and unique set of quests and minigames. It's too bad the Nintendo 64 is aging so poorly. The fuzzy graphics really hurt this game in my opinion. Not enough to mess with the score though. Number 2, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time on the Nintendo 64. Graphics, wonderful. Sound, glorious. Controls, perfect. Atmosphere, incredible. Is it the finest game ever made? Quite possibly. Only Miyamoto seems to be able to bring out the kid that lives deep down inside everyone, allowing you to enjoy the game exactly as he intended. It's an incredibly enjoyable experience, impossible to play for short periods of time. You'll get sucked in so much, you'll always play for hours. Do not, I repeat, do not miss it. And finally, Electronic Gaming Monthly's #1 Zelda game, The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess on Wii. Never before have I seen a better argument for longer game development times. Giving the Twilight Princess team an extra year and a whole new console to play with has resulted in the finest Zelda you've ever played. And skeptics who feared tacked-on Wii controls will be pleasantly surprised by the instinctive, visceral, and rewarding Wiimote gameplay. But don't think that the game adheres to the predictable dungeon-crawling formula. You'll quickly discover the Twilight Princess is packed with above-ground surprises and innovations too. Unparalleled pacing means that you're never doing the same thing for more than an hour or two. For everyone who thought we'd never see a Zelda game better than Ocarina of Time, prepare to have your mind blown, and your Wii purchase instantly validated.
The Legend of Zelda continues. Defeat your enemies, save the kingdom.
Beware.
Some will help you, others will betray
I can
you.
restore life. I can get magic. I can.
I cannot help you.
Zelda!
Use your sword.
Find the crystals.
Rescue the princess.
Zelda! Zelda!
Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, only from Nintendo. Now you're playing with power.
Hey, thanks for watching us break down these classic reviews. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we have a whole playlist with episodes featuring Bubble Bobble, Twisted Metal, Ridge Racer, Super Mario Bros., Sonic the Hedgehog, Resident Evil, Silent Hill, James Bond, and dozens more. Believe it or not, this is actually the 38th episode of EGM Rank, so definitely check out that playlist. Now, here's the question I have for you. What's your favorite Legend of Zelda game? Yeah, I feel like it used to be that the fans were split between Ocarina and A Link to the Past, but I think that Breath of the Wild has probably usurped at least one of those for most people. Let me go ahead and see your picks in the comments below. In other news, we'll be back later this week with more reviews and fun. That's right, I'm promising fun. Consider yourself warned. While you wait for said fun, I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.